Recently, we've been taking a look at the RK2020. This is an emulation handheld that you can get for about $60, and for the price, I've been really impressed with it so far. In the last video, we checked out 50 PSP games played on the RK2020, and today, by request, we're checking out 50 Dreamcast games played on the RK2020. This one goes out to Bob Haskins. Thank you for watching and for the support. Hope you enjoy the video. Without further ado, let's jump in. First up, we have Bangai-O. And as you're seeing, this game really wasn't playable. It freezes up a lot. Whenever you unleash like a certain amount of missiles, no, it just freezes up. There's nothing you can do about it, really. Moving on to another shooter, we have Border Down. And this one didn't give me much better luck either, but stay tuned because most of the games that I tried on Dreamcast worked pretty well. A few of them though, and it surprised me sometimes which ones did and did not work. This is one, however, that just is super choppy, super slow, as you'll be able to see and even hear in the audio. It might seem okay at first, but just listen to that audio, it's so distorted. This is not a game that I had played before, so I'm not sure, but it feels like it's running in slow motion. I'm pretty sure this is really slowed down, especially, you know, that audio is a sign of it. Here we have Cannon Spike, a great game. Yeah, this game, I expected it to work just fine because even the Naomi version played just fine on this device. Some of these Dreamcast games, if you want to just put on the Naomi ROM instead, you'll save a lot of space doing so. They tend to be a lot smaller in file size. However, some of the Dreamcast versions will just play better for you. And sometimes the Dreamcast versions have added features as well. I don't believe we had Mega Man or Red Riding Hood in the Naomi version. But here you can see Cannon Spike works just fine. I played through the first couple of levels, no issues at all. Next up, Choo Choo Rocket, a classic Dreamcast game. I used to have this one. It's been a long time since I played it, so forgive my ignorance here as I'm trying to remember how to play. Also, I got the Japanese ROM for some reason, unknowingly, and I went into this battle mode right away. Bad move. A bit overwhelmed, but none of that matters. We're just interested in seeing how well it runs on this handheld. And it runs just fine, as you might expect. It's a very simple game. No issues at all, though. Alright, anyways, next. Another Dreamcast classic, a Crazy Taxi. Overall, very playable. For the most part, it runs really well. There are occasional dropped frames. Occasional just tiny bit of stuttering, but hardly noticeable. You can just kind of hear it in the music every now and then. It kind of skips. I don't want to play too much of that music. I don't want any copyright strikes in here, but of course, classic game, and it feels great playing it on this handheld. No problems. Next on the list is Daytona USA. Just as you're getting started, there's some stuttering, so I didn't expect too much from this, but once you get going, it actually runs really well. The actual gameplay felt pretty good. Now, if there's a way to show the frame rate on this emulator, I have not found it yet. So we're not having the FPS listed on the screen on this video, unfortunately. We're just gonna have to use our eyes the old-fashioned way, you know. Does it look smooth? Does it look good or not? Yeah, for some reason my controls were not configured properly, so I had to adjust that real quick. Much better. I can actually accelerate. There we go. That's better. Now my driving is not the best, admittedly. But look at that, fast and fun gameplay. I guess, I mean, this is not my favorite racing game, but it seems to be popular one, kind of a classic from that era, so decided to check it out. Now that I'm looking at it, you can see through parts of the back of the car. I didn't notice that when I was playing it. I'm kind of watching this on my computer monitor now, what I recorded earlier, and yeah, I'm seeing these glitches, but overall though, really good. Alright, Dead or Alive 2. Love this game. Didn't love the performance on this handheld though, which is disappointing to me because I feel like I tested this out once before and it seemed like it was better, but this time around it is very, very slow. It's not running full speed. You can hear in the audio and everything. It's not great. This is not how I want to play Dead or Alive. No, I feel like it just got worse and worse. Too slow for my liking. It's a shame, but it's alright. Next up, Dynamite Cop. Pretty simple brawler. I didn't know what I was doing per se, but seemed to run just fine. No real issues here. Alright, here we have some Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. So here's another case of me not knowing what the heck was going on in the game, but beautiful game, seems to run just fine. Kept trying to pick fights with these sharks just to see what would happen, but nothing happened. Yeah, I don't know what this game is about, to be honest. I'm a little more familiar with the Genesis titles, but never played this one before. I don't know what I was supposed to be doing, but those sharks were not interested in any dolphin meat. So yeah, there we have it. Echo the Dolphin seems to run just fine. Next, Evolution. I love how this game just drops you right into a fight. They don't waste any time with some 10-minute opening movie or anything like that. Perfect for doing a quick gameplay test. They just drop you into a battle as the game starts. That's awesome. Anyways, this is a game I'm definitely going to come back to. It's one I always wanted to play. Really kind of a highly acclaimed classic of the time. And it was remade for the GameCube as well. Seems to run just fine, you know, whether in battles or running around in the world. I didn't notice any issues with the sound or anything like that either. This is a great RPG. Awesome that you can play this on the go now. Alright, moving on. This is Fighting Vipers 2. Very cool fighting game. This is one that really should be brought back. Just had so much style, such a different kind of sense of character design and everything. Very cool. So for the most part, it ran pretty well. You're going to see here, even with the destructible environments and kind of changing scenery and stuff that this game has, this thing handles it a lot better than it did DOA 2, that's for sure. Now, I've played this game a bit, but as you'll see here in a minute, for some reason it just crashed on me this time. It crashed and I had to reboot the whole system. But this is the only time it's actually happened, and like I said, I played this a bit off camera too. And it's been just fine even after this crash. There we go with the destructible environments, pretty cool. Even after this crash, I rebooted it and played through it a bit more and had no issues whatsoever. So I don't know what this was about. It's kind of a random thing that happened. And there it is. There's that crash I was talking about. Yeah, I couldn't do anything. Couldn't exit the software or anything like that. Had to do a forced shutdown. After that, it worked just fine. But that was just a weird kind of crash. Never happened again. So anyways, next up, Gigawing 2. So this one seems to handle much better than the other shmups we checked out earlier. So yeah, this one seems to be pretty good. When there's a lot of stuff going on the screen and a lot of kind of special effects. Look at that, man. Such a cool looking game. So after the other ones, I'm impressed at how well this one handles on this system. Whether this is actually full speed or not, you guys can tell me. You can be the judge. But the audio seems to be fine. For the most part, everything seems to be pretty smooth. Even with all that stuff on the screen. Anyways, there's Gigawing too, guys. I was playing this through my camera screen. I couldn't see what I was doing that well. But I was really just trying to do a stress test on this thing and see if it would run. So let's see what else we got. Here we have Grandia 2. And here's the thing that's really interesting is that for some reason these FMV sequences tend to have issues with slowdown. It'll play these pre-rendered sequences slowly and the audio is all messed up. But once you actually get into the game engine, the gameplay, everything seems to be fine. Yeah, moving into the actual in-game environments seems to be just fine. The audio is fixed. It's a really pretty environment too. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of characters on screen. Handling it just fine. One thing I'll say on these games with the text is that text is so small it can be kind of hard to read. Not only is it small, but the screen resolution is so low on this. We're playing these Dreamcast games on the minimum, it's like 240p or something, and so the small text just gets a little squished and it's unclear sometimes. You can see some actual gameplay. I had to sit through a lot of dialogue in that opening, but just kind of ran around a little bit, played through a few battles, and yeah, no problems. Smooth gameplay. It's one I would love to play some more of on this handheld. Another classic RPG. And here we have some Hydro Thunder. Love Hydro Thunder, man. I wish they would make a new one. I know they made one for the Xbox 360, Xbox Live Arcade. It's on the Windows Store too, but the Windows Store version doesn't have any split-screen multiplayer. And this is a perfect game for that. I know everybody plays online, they play by themselves nowadays, but I mean, come on. I still really enjoy split-screen or just sitting next to somebody, you know, and play a game with a friend or a family member in the same room. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I think a lot of us still enjoy that for sure. Anyways, you can see it gets a little choppy here and there. Those water effects don't look the best. Not too bad for a cheap little handheld anyways. Definitely playable. Alright, moving on. Here we have some Ikaruga, yet another shmup. A lot of shmups on the Dreamcast. RPGs, racing games, a little bit of everything, as you would expect. This one is definitely classic. Everybody seems to love this game. I love the premise. I just don't love how difficult it is, but that's just me. I found this game really punishing. Not just difficult, but punishing, man. Like, jeez. So you can see some slowdown going on right here as it's loading in kind of new parts of the level, but actually playing the game, it felt pretty good, pretty decent. Not hearing any kind of slowdown in the audio or anything like that. Nothing too noticeable visually either. Felt really good playing this thing. Alright, let's move on to the next game. Ikaruga is just fine on this thing. Jet Set Radio. We played this one a little bit on the first impressions video for the RK2020, but it's worth taking another look at as just a classic game for the Dreamcast. Really a must-have, must-play. This game seems to run just fine on this handheld. Oh my gosh. Except once again I was playing through the camera and having a hard time telling how close I was to the ledge. But I played through the first couple of levels and a little bit more than that before, and everything was just fine. Not the smoothest frame rate, definitely low def, but hey, it's a $60 handheld. Seems to be, to me, it seems to be full speed and very playable. Definitely a good one to play on this thing. Classic. Alright, moving on. Here's Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. And here I absolutely got my butt kicked while I was trying to figure out the controls, but it's a 2D fighter as you would expect. It plays just fine, no issues at all. However, you might be surprised at one of the other 2D fighters we check out that had some real issues. This one though, it works fine. I just wish I knew what the heck I was doing, because yeah, this is sad, man. Getting absolutely devastated over here. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I think we've seen enough. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has no problem on this thing. Let's move on. Here we have Looney Tunes Space Race. I did not expect much from this, as I've had problems with this on Raspberry Pi 2, and the Raspberry Pi tends to run games a lot better than this handheld. Hear that sound? Well, get used to it, because it doesn't go away. Yeah, it has some major issues with sound. This also happened on Raspberry Pi. It just keeps replaying these horrible sounds over and over again. I tried to deal with it just for a few minutes. Let's see. Hey, oh man, it turned into a much worse sound. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it doesn't go away, guys. Those sound glitches persist. I thought, hey, maybe we can play this with no sound. Theoretically, let's see if the game works. Man, it's like there's a siren right next to you. That's awful. I'm sorry. I'm just going to replace the sound with something else. Let's put on some soothing classical music. Ah, yes, that's better. Much better. So the game kind of is okay if you can just mute the sound. Or is it though? Just take a look at the timer on the left hand side of the screen. You can tell it's not running at full speed. It's a little bit slowed down. Probably not how you want to be playing this game. Yeah, everything just feels a little too slow. And the whole sound issue is just really unfortunate. Let's go back to the in-game sound. Yeah, you can hear that siren-ish sound is still going on. Not pleasant at all. So anyways, Looney Tunes Space Race. Play this thing on a more powerful system. Alright, another classic 2D fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now this one surprised me. After JoJo, I thought, hey, this is going to be just fine. It's a 2D fighter, no problem, right? Especially because I've played this game extensively on the arcade version on this same device. This Dreamcast ROM, on the other hand, though, is a different story. For some reason, I tried this multiple times, the game just crashes. It kept crashing. Before I could even finish a fight, the game would just crash. I would have to do a hard reset. Much like we saw earlier on Fighting Vipers, but it does it every time with this game. But like I say, if you want to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, just get the arcade ROM. I think the CPS2 version, it ran just fine. I played it quite extensively, no issues whatsoever, but here on the Dreamcast, it just freezes. And it does it every time I try it, so I can't even get out of the game with the hotkeys. Had to do a hard shutdown. So if you want to play this game, get the CPS2 version, not the Dreamcast version. Thought we'd try some sports games. I remember the 2K games were great on the Dreamcast. So this is NBA 2K2. Not good. Super slow motion. Oh my goodness. No. That will not do. That will not do at all. Yep, the whole thing runs in slow motion. Not playable. So let's try another 2K sports game. Maybe we'll have better luck with NFL 2K2. Nope. It's the world's slowest coin toss if I've ever seen it. Just wait as the players leisurely take their spots on the field. I even tried messing around with the frame skipping on some of these games, and no, it got the speed up a little bit, but what is this? What is that frame rate? And it's still in slow motion. The whole game is a slow motion replay. Not gonna pass. So finally we have NHL 2K2. Maybe the third time's the charm, right? Nope, this is all we get. We get a tiny little square. I can't even tell what I'm looking at. You can kind of hear the game sounds, but nope, nothing's happening. That's all you get. I reset the game. I even tried the other emulator, and no. The other emulator on this thing just doesn't even seem to boot up most of these games at all. So nope, no luck on the 2K Sports. We will check out Virtua Tennis later, which is a little bit better, but for now, we're going to move on to Mortal Kombat Gold. Accidentally skipped this one. This is out of alphabetical order now. I'm sorry, any of my OCD friends, including myself. Yeah, it runs fast, smooth. Forgive me again, I don't know what I'm doing here. I never did get into the Mortal Kombat series. Not enough to know any of the moves. I've played a few of the games over the years, but, you know, very, very little. Anyways, this seems to be just fine though. Works great on this handheld. As I'm getting my butt kicked once again. Oh my goodness. Maybe I'll have better luck with Liu Kang. Oh, look at me go. Oh, look at me go. Yeah, no, that's not gonna last. I'm gonna die really soon. But anyways, yeah, Mortal Kombat Gold, just fine. We're gonna move on now before you see me lose again. Back into the alphabetical order now, we have Phantasy Star Online version 2. I had no idea this ROM was in Japanese, and I had to figure out a serial number, so I had to go look that up. So once I got those in, I was able to create a character and hop into the game for a little bit, on the offline mode of course. From what I can tell, everything runs just fine, but I could not for the life of me figure out what I was supposed to be doing. Of course, I'm not fluent in Japanese, and it's been so long since I played this game, I don't remember how to get into any of the missions or anything like that. So I just ran around this kind of city hub, and talked to some NPCs and didn't understand a thing. But from what I can tell, it seems to be okay. Alright, that's enough. Here we have Plasma Sword. No problems with this game. Ran just fine. Looks great. Plays great. Seems like a cool game too. One I'll definitely come back to. Ouch. Oh, I'm still alive. How am I still alive? Go, go, go. Oh, look at me just button mash my way to victory. Holy man, you couldn't even see my health. That's how low it was. Anyways, yeah, Plasma Sword, just fine. Carrying on. Play a little bit of Power Stone. You gotta play Power Stone, man. One of the best Dreamcast games, for sure. I mean, honestly, the Dreamcast had a lot of good games, and a lot of them were arcade ports. Man, I love this game. And I'm pleased to say that it plays great on this device. Even the Naomi version too, if you wanted to save some space, like I mentioned earlier, the Naomi version of this game ran just fine as well. Most of the time I was just trying to figure out which buttons did what on this thing. Didn't give myself a whole lot of time to get the feel of it, but hey, real simple game though. Great game though. I hope they bring back a lot of these series that we're looking at today. A lot of kind of forgotten games. Not forgotten, you know, by us gamers, right, who enjoyed these games over the years, but just abandoned by the industry. Capcom, what you doing? Bring back Power Stone. We need Power Stone 3 already. Come on now. Anyways, yeah, no issues here. Ran great. Psychic Force 2012. Man, 2012. Jeez, I guess, you know, back then when this came out, that was in the future, but oh, what's this? Oh, nope, it's frozen. Nope, we can't play it. I'm sorry, guys. Not working. It's just a trip, though, that 2012 was how many years ago now? Almost a decade ago? Jeez. Anyways, let's check out some Quake 3 Arena. Again, I didn't expect much from this game. This is kind of a demanding one. It launches, but it is not how you want to play this game. This game needs to be fast. It's all about speed. And that's just not what we get here. Yeah, listen to that audio, man. This is terrible. Not how you want to play Quake. Not at all. Plus these controls are so weird. I had such a hard time trying to get used to the controls. So even if it did run at full speed, I would definitely need to do something about the control scheme. Or really spend a lot of time getting the hang of it, because it feels so backwards. But that's all irrelevant. I mean, that's the way it was on the Dreamcast, I believe. You're using the left stick to look around, and then the face buttons on the right to walk. Just so weird. But anyways, it doesn't play fast enough to be enjoyable on this handheld anyways. So we're just going to go ahead and skip on to something else. Here we have Record of Lodus War. Nice little dungeon crawler, hack and slash, based on the anime. Wouldn't really know it though. Doesn't look like an anime at all. But this thing seems to run just fine. Getting a little impatient playing through this tutorial. Dragged on for a bit too long for my liking, but definitely a game I'd like to play more of. This was a Dreamcast exclusive, I believe. Cool little hack and slash game. I just got really impatient through this tutorial. I didn't want to read. I just wanted to go slash some bad guys. And I didn't get to do much of that. It was all, here, pick this up, equip it with this button. Use this potion even though you don't need to, just so you know how. And so on and so forth. Here we go. Bring on the bad guys. What? Now you guys just want to have a conversation too? Seriously? Boss man standing there talking to me? Come on, dude. Enough with the talking. Let's just get to the action. Anyways, Record of Lodus War. Check it out, guys. It looks like a cool game once you get through all this beginning stuff. Moving on. Some Resident Evil Code Veronica.
And what about you? What are you going to do? Don't worry about me.
Here too, this game seems to be just fine. It plays great. Not that I knew what I was doing, but uh-oh, zombies. Yep, this is what we came here for. Yeah, I didn't experience any issues with this. Seems to run at full speed. Sound is fine. Game looks great. Until we go into that pre-rendered movie, the quality, the sound, everything gets a little janky for some reason just during the pre-rendered movies. It's so weird. Once we get back into the actual gameplay, however, we're fine. Full speed. No issues whatsoever. Except I don't know what I'm doing. I never played a lot of these older Resident Evil games. I know I'm missing out. Especially this one really looked interesting out of a lot of the older ones. This looks like one of the best, in my opinion. Here we have Rez, and I showed this one off a little bit in the first video too, so I'm not going to show too much more, but a very interesting game, very cool concept. Kind of on-rails shooter with some kind of musical elements to it. Makes you feel like it's a music game when it's actually just a shooter, but very cool. Very cool game, and yeah, it runs just fine on this platform. You know, the frame rate and the resolution, again, is not going to be all that on here, but when you're looking at it on that little screen, I mean, it's pretty impressive that you can play these Dreamcast games on this little cheap device, honestly. To me, it's really fun and just so cool to have these games in your pocket, or, I mean, maybe not in your pocket, but, you know, you can just pick it up and play whenever you want. Very cool. Anyways, Rez works just fine. Here we have Samba de Amigo. I've been missing out on this game for the longest time. I didn't know you could play it without the maracas. I had no idea. I always wanted to play this game, but never had the maracas. I actually just picked up the Wii version. Finally, after all these years, I picked up the Wii version, but yeah, you can actually just play this with a controller too. Very cool game, a classic. I love rhythm games, and yeah, it works just fine. Seems to. Super stoked I can finally play this game after all these years wanting to. Yeah, I'll be playing some more of this for sure. Another game that needs a sequel. Alright. You know what? We need a VR sequel. That's what we need. Alright, next up, Sega Gt. Pretty impressed with the performance on this one. I didn't know what to think. I actually didn't think it was going to work very well. I feel like this one tends to have some issues with some of these emulators, but nope. Working just fine. Skip ahead to an actual race against other cars. A little bit of slowdown when you just start out, but once you get going, it really kind of picks up the pace. Seems to run just fine. I mean, it's playable. Again, I wish I could show the frame rate here, but we're just doing this the old-fashioned way, guys. We're using our own eyes. Definitely we can tell it's not as smooth as, you know, as perhaps we would like it to be. But again, to me, it's playable for a cheap little handheld. And you don't notice as much the kind of jagged edges and things when you're looking at this on the small screen. It's blown up right now for the video on camera, but when we're looking at this tiny screen, it looks pretty good. Not too bad at all. Next up, this was Sega Rally 2. It just wouldn't even boot up past this screen here. Both emulators just would not even boot the game. And certain emulators, I know even on PC, they do have issues running this game. Compatibility is just not great with that game. So I think it's an emulation issue rather than this particular handheld hardware being at fault. It is what it is. So we move on to Shenmue. And I didn't have any issues with Shenmue. Shenmue seems to be just fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dear son, I'm alright, but Hazuki-sensei, my father.
You can kind of see through Ryo's head, and I don't know if it was like that in the original game or not. Without doing a side-by-side comparison, I'm not too sure. Been looking at the remasters more recently, and I don't recall what it looked like originally, but I don't think you could see through Ryo's head. Like the back of his head, it's like there's holes in the character sprite. See that? I don't know. Overall though, I mean, the game looks great, sounds great, plays just fine. I didn't find any real problems with it during my admittedly short time playing. You want to play Shenmue on the go? Hey, you're in luck. Alright, here we have Silent Scope. This game seems to work just fine, except it's a little choppy. It's hard to get a precise aim. It's like, I don't know if it's just how sensitive the thumbstick is. It's just like the aiming is super choppy. It's hard to get a pixel perfect accuracy. And this becomes really apparent once you get to the boss fights. Things get a little bit more difficult. Here you can take your time at first and try to get a good shot, but once we get to that boss fight and you're moving around in a helicopter, it gets really, really hard. I mean, it's already hard, and part of it is that I'm just not that good at this game, but it's made much, much more difficult by the fact that the aiming on here is just so choppy. It's all over the place. Go ahead and skip ahead to that first boss. Yeah, for me this was almost impossible. I eventually did get a few good shots on the guy, but man, it is so hard when it's so choppy. Yeah, so this is probably not one I'll come back to on this handheld. It is a game I love and I will play it on PC or something else, but no, not here. Here's Skies of Arcadia. This one seems to work just fine, much like Evolution. It's another classic RPG that was also remade for the GameCube, or rather remastered. Very cool game, and yeah, it works just fine on here. Again, from the little bit I've played, I can't really play through a 20-hour RPG on this thing just to test it out. I mean, especially when I'm trying to show off a bunch of different games on here. Ain't nobody got time for that. I spent way too many hours as it is making these videos, so I hope it's helpful in some way or enjoyable in some way. But yeah, Skies of Arcadia, man, it played really nice on this handheld. Alright, next up on the list, Sonic Adventure 2. Once again, we tried this game out on the first video. Watch as I miss every single ramp on this level. Really disappointing. But no, this runs just fine. That music, there's no skipping at all, you know. It's fast, it's fun, as Sonic should be. I really messed up this run, but yeah, no problems here at all. Great performance on this game. Alright, next up, Soul Calibur. One of the greatest fighting games of all time, and one of the very best games on the Dreamcast as well. Oh man, I spent so many hours playing this. Look at that, man. No, this game works great, really flawlessly. There's a little bit of slowdown sometimes when it's just loading in, when it's just starting, but again here, when you're actually getting into the gameplay, no, it runs smooth, fluidly, very, very nice. Very much worth playing here. And just, again, just so great to play this game on a handheld. I mean, I know there was that PSP game, the PSP version that came out, which was really nice also. Had a lot more characters and things, but man, this version of Soul Calibur, it's just so nostalgic and just so well done, you know. Always gotta jump off the ledge at the end. Space Channel 5, I don't know what to say about this one. You can already hear the sound. You can see it's not running at full speed, which is a big problem for a rhythm game. However, here again, when the actual gameplay starts, it seems to speed up and be pretty playable. Now, there were parts when I was really messing up, and I don't know if it was me or if it was a lag issue. I really couldn't tell. So pretty good, but here again, in between those segments, when you're just kind of watching and listening to the dialogue, it slows down again. And like I said, I really couldn't tell if I was just really offbeat, or if the speed was a little bit messed up, or if there was some latency or inaccuracies in the D-pad. I don't know. It's probably just me. Can't tell. There you go, guys. Space Channel 5, it's a mixed bag. I don't know. Probably not going to be playing it on this thing anymore. We have Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles. Not a great game, as it would turn out. This was really not critically acclaimed or anything like that either. It just looked like fun. It handles real well on this thing, but yeah, it's not a game that I'm going to want to play very much of. That shadow under your character that kind of pops in and out, it doesn't look very good. But otherwise, it's very playable. It seems to run at full speed. It's just a lackluster game, but hey, can't blame the console for that. Yeah, I think we've seen enough. Anyways, it runs just fine if you want to play this game. Here's Super Magnetic Neo. This was an exclusive platformer on the Dreamcast. I heard good things about this one. I never played it before. Seems to handle just fine on this device. interesting concepts. Have these magnetic abilities, which I was still trying to figure out. Trying to kind of get the feel of it, but there are some kind of graphical glitches. You can see it's like under light beams and things, your character kind of goes invisible sometimes. That is a bit of a, you know, an annoyance, if not a real issue. It might be an issue in some parts of the game, I don't know, but anyways, for the most part, it seems to be okay. It's playable. Here we have Sword of the Berserk, Guts Rage. It's about to be a lot of blood on the screen. Just so you know, there was a warning as you start up this game. It's like, warning, there's going to be a lot of blood and gore in this game. Of course, this stuff is also outdated nowadays, the graphics, but just so you know, yeah, the anime this is based on is very, very gory too. Very cool though. I've only watched a little bit of it, but it's kind of an old classic. And the game runs great. Kind of feels like a Dynasty. I mean, it has aspects of Dynasty Warriors, but not quite. It's a hack and slash action game. Runs really well on this handheld. Anyways, there you go, guys. Sword of Berserk. What's next? What's next? Techromancer. Another 3D fighter. I didn't have any issues with this game. It seemed to run pretty well. Didn't exactly know what I was doing, but I had fun with it for a few minutes. Seems like a cool game. Giant robots fighting each other? Why not? Oh yeah. Definitely playable. No real issues here. Techromancer. Here's the House of the Dead 2. This is one I used to play all the time in the arcades. I never played the home console version. I only played it with a light gun. But it actually works surprisingly well with the controller. It's actually a lot of fun when you get the hang of it. Oh yeah, all that cheesy voice acting, all that over-the-top action. Very fun. Seems to run at full speed. Maybe a little bit of slowdown. You know what? It's hard to tell. When I was playing, I didn't really notice it. Too late. Anyways, yeah. House of the Dead 2. Classic. Great game. Even with the controller, it turns out. Ooh. Ooh, I killed the guy by accident. There was nothing we could do. Actually, I could have just not shot him, but that's another story. Anyways, House of the Dead 2. Good stuff. Good times, guys. Let's move on to Unreal Tournament. Alright, so this one, as you might expect, it ran about like Quake. At least this game has better controls. I was able to get quite a few kills against the CPU. But is this one I want to play on this device? No, heck no. It's way too slow and choppy. This also, you want this to be really fast, but it's like I'm playing in slow motion. This is not how you want to play Unreal. Man, I used to have such a good time playing this split screen on the Dreamcast. Man, good times playing 4-player split screen with my friends. Great times. But yeah, those great times are not to be had on this handheld. Moving on. We saved the best of the sports games for last. Virtua Tennis. One of the highest rated sports games on Dreamcast. Everybody loved this game. Whether you like tennis or not, it was just such a good game back then. And it still is, really. And it's kind of playable. You can see we're having this weird glitch in the beginning where it's like the menu screen keeps flashing in the middle of the gameplay. That's really bizarre. After a couple of minutes of playing though, that went away. So that's really strange. After a couple minutes, it stopped glitching and it started running actually pretty well. Probably not one I would keep on this device though. This is one I'll play on PC. Yeah, there's quite a bit of slowdown, so not the best. So I tried Wacky Races, but didn't have any luck. It just really wouldn't even start up. Past those intro screens, the developer screens, no, nothing happened. We got a black screen. This is one I really didn't expect to be able to play very well anyways. It doesn't play very well on Raspberry Pi either, in my experience. But I expected to at least boot up. We couldn't get it to launch on either of the emulators on this thing. On the other hand, Walt Disney World Magical Racing Tour worked pretty well actually. If you're dying to play a kart racer on this thing, yeah, this one's not a bad choice. It's alright. Not the most exciting racing game. I mean, if you're a huge fan of Disney and Disney World, it's kind of cool. You get to play through like Thunder Mountain Railroad and some of the Disney park themed tracks. Pretty cool, but it's sort of just a vanilla kart racer. Oh man, what am I doing? What am I doing? Not too much to write home about, but it plays pretty well on this handheld. Alright, next up, Zombie Revenge. Another fun, cheesy arcade port.
Are we still following this guy?
He's the one making the zombies. To catch him, we have to follow.
Some of the worst voice acting you'll ever hear, I'm sure. But a fun, simple little zombie shoot 'em up, beat 'em up. Very cool, very fun game. Very fun game. And it ran really well on this handheld. And finally, we have Zusar Vasar. One of the craziest racing games you'll probably ever play. Yeah, this is kind of a little known game. It's a Dreamcast exclusive. You basically ride this futuristic robot animal driven chariot. It's like a race car being dragged around by these robotic, you know, like sled dogs or horses, or you can choose different robot animals. And yeah, it's a crazy game. It is absolutely crazy. Pretty fun though. And yeah, it works really well on this low spec device. So there you have it, guys. I believe that was 50 games. 50 games tested on the Dreamcast emulator on this RK2020. And like I said before, this hardware is very similar to other, you know, there's a bunch of other similar handhelds out there on the market. A lot of them have virtually the same specs, so you can kind of expect similar performance no matter which one of these devices you're buying. So far I've been pretty happy with this one. Honestly, my favorite games to play on this are mostly old arcade games, old MAME games, and, you know, Capcom CPS games and whatnot. But it's cool to be able to play some of these Dreamcast games and old PS1 games. Even N64 is really a mixed bag on here. PSP is a mixed bag, but just to have the variety, it's a really cool thing to have one of these handhelds, in my opinion. I'm really enjoying it myself. So there it is, 50 Dreamcast games. I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'll be coming at you real soon with some new stuff. I got some new series planned. We'll just see how that goes. And I appreciate your time today. Take care, have fun, until next time. See you soon.